and welcome to this episode of Stef Talks Trash. My name is Stefanie Valentic, Editorial Director of Waste 360. Today, I'll be having a conversation with Laura Hennemann of Strategic Materials. Strategic Materials is the largest glass recycler in North America. I'll be speaking with Laura about the history of glass recycling, we'll dispel some common myths about glass recycling, and we'll also talk about the impact of a national deposit law if it ever happened. Enjoy the show! So once again, Laura, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you here. Can you please start by telling me a little bit about your background and about Strategic Materials?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Laura Hennemann. I worked for Strategic Materials for almost 5 years now. I'm responsible for marketing communications for the company. Strategic Materials, hopefully a lot in the recycling industry knows who Strategic Materials is. But in case you don't, we are the largest glass recycler in North America. We've been recycling glass since 1896. So for a very, very long time. We recycle about 3 million tons a year of glass and want to recycle even more, and there's opportunity to recycle more. We primarily recycle soda lime or your food and beverage glass is, what you would put in your curbside bin traditionally. But we also have some more specialty glass markets that we recycle for, including like windshields, plates, windows, etc. So we have about 50 locations in the US, Canada, and Mexico.
So you mentioned that your company has been around for more than 100 years. In that time, how has glass recycling changed or evolved?
Well, the interesting thing is I think the company has, evolved as the collection systems have evolved. So obviously, not only from a collection standpoint, but also producing and manufacturing standpoint, the products that are in glass packaging, not that they necessarily have changed, but the materials have changed over time. So, we're moving from sort of a regular, more direct, straightforward collection system to something that requires a little bit more technology for contamination rates, moving from sort of a source separated to a single stream collection system, really forced the company to start to look at technology as far as cleaning systems to remove labels or lids or non-glass residuals, sometimes is what we call it, but then also optical sorters. So in order for us to really process and color sort the material to meet end market specifications, typically our process will sort by color. So something like an optical sorter is really important for us. So we've been forced in a way to kind of evolve based on what the manufacturing materials have been in the stream, but also the collection system in the stream.
So in terms of glass, can you please explain the sustainability aspect of it? Glass is infinitely recyclable, but what does that really mean? And what does that mean in terms of building a circular economy?
Yeah, so glass actually has a really great story. So glass is 100% recyclable forever. And sometimes that's hard for people to understand, but when you put glass back into glass manufacturing, it's not degrading like some other materials might have over time. So one bottle in, one bottle out. So that's obviously very sustainable. But when you use recycled glass, you're not only displacing virgin mined materials like sand that take CO2 and other transportation aspects that go into that, but recycled glass melts at a lower temperature than those virgin materials. So in the production of new glass bottles, for example, and fiberglass insulation, because it melts at a lower temperature, you're saving CO2 emissions and there's energy reduction. So it's more efficient production to make those products. And because glass can go back into glass manufacturing with those energy benefits, it can be used, put in the bin, collected, sent to a material recovery facility, sent to us, sent to a container manufacturer, then sent to be filled and be back on the shelf in as little as 30 days. So one bottle in, one bottle out, it really is a pretty quick, efficient process, both from a time perspective, but also an energy standpoint.
Have you seen any challenges with your glass recycling process?
Yeah, the challenge really today is the same with any material in a single stream collection. We love curbside collection because it's typically high volume, and we need very high volumes in order to operate efficiently and be competitive in the recycling space versus virgin material. But for us, the challenge is contamination. So we want as much glass in that pile as possible. We don't find it economical or environmentally responsible to be moving trash around into our facilities. We do recycle aluminum in our facilities, so anything that comes into a glass pile that's aluminum, we are able to recover and recycle. But the biggest challenge is operating efficiently when it comes to contamination. So how do we partner with MRFs? How do we partner with communities to make sure that contamination rates are as low as possible so that everybody can win and kind of make that circular economy work for everybody?
So can you please go into more detail about those partnerships and what you're doing to educate consumers about contamination?
From a consumer perspective, we do our best to get some information out there. A lot of times it's very localized, so it will be coming from the hauler, the MRF, or the local city and government. But really what we try to do is partner with MRFs to be sort of a solutions provider. So for some of the MRFs that are struggling with glass recycling today, maybe they don't think it's profitable, maybe there's some complaints that they may have around glass. We try to partner with them in the sense of even sometimes going into the MRF and evaluating what they're doing and saying, hey, if you made this change or if you added this piece of equipment, this is going to be the result. And it helps them calculate their ROI or their payback period for investments. So we try to lend some of our expertise, some of our learnings with the MRFs so that, again, they feel like, okay, I really understand glass recycling and it's working for my system. But also for us, we're saying, we're getting really great volumes into our facility to meet end market demand. So we look at it a lot as like a partnership. We also work very closely with the Glass Recycling Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. I sit on the board for that foundation, and also the Glass Recycling Coalition. And so some of those organizations really help to communicate with municipalities in a different way than we can and provide best practices for MRFs. And when it comes to glass recycling, and also they have a MRF certification program. So it gives MRFs a goal to work towards for glass recycling and making their individual operations successful.
So moving along, what are some of the myths surrounding glass recycling and what is being done to address those?
Yeah, that's one of our favorites because we fight these every day, and it's understandable. MRFs are under a lot of stress and coming out of a challenging period right now. But some of the most common, I won't go through all of them because there is quite a few, and I'm sure it's the same with other materials too. But one that we hear pretty often is broken glass cannot be recycled. That's not true. Mixed color glass cannot be recycled. Also not true. That's part of the reason why we've set up our facilities the way we have, is to be able to color sort. We've also heard something like glass can no longer be recycled because of China's sword policy. And glass has never been sent internationally. It's recycled domestically. It's never been sent to China. What ends up happening with glass in the system is some of the other materials that no longer have homes. And so there's an increased cost. So MRFs are under a lot of pressure to, where can I save money? How can I make this work for the community? And sometimes glass gets cut from the program, but glass is recycled domestically. It's never gone to China. We've also heard that glass can be unsafe to process. The suggested way and recommendations of processing glass in a MRF is not including any labor, so there's no safety concerns. And also our safety report, our TRIR, is lower than a MRF, and we just recycle glass. So to us, it's like, well, how can it be unsafe just because of glass? So those are some of the most common myths we hear. I mean, I'm sure there's others that I haven't addressed, but that's what we hear and try to educate on a regular basis.
So why hasn't glass been shipped internationally? Why has there been such a robust glass recycling industry within the United States as compared to other materials?
Yeah, I mean, the inherent benefits that make glass great are also the things that can put some constraints on glass recycling. One of it is that glass is very heavy. So glass typically makes up about 25% by weight of any given bin at curbside. And it's not economical for us to move glass internationally in that way because it is very heavy. There is a carbon footprint that it can be associated with that. And we've got demand here in the US. So it doesn't make sense. In fact, our demand in the US today exceeds our supply. So to us, there's just no financial or environmental reason to ship it overseas.
Some industry leaders and experts have called for a national deposit law. What would that mean for the glass recycling industry, and how would that impact strategic materials?
Yeah, I mean, we are very supportive of deposit or bottle bill states. We love to operate near or in those states because it's very high volume glass coming in with low contamination rates. So we would be supportive of it. I think the impact on us is we would be able to really operate more efficiently, but also create a more perfect recycling system for glass because of it. When we look at Europe, their recycled content rates are much higher because there's that pull through demand and that system in place. Whereas in the US, we're about 35% range. And I know that there are industry goals to get that higher, but really it's volume driven and it's contamination driven. So we do believe that there's a sort of a balance, and just having that option when it comes to deposit for residents can be very powerful. So we're very supportive of curbside, but the convenience factor of that, but maximizing options for consumers equals higher volumes for us. So it would be a game changer for the glass recycling industry if that were to advance.
Winding down here, where can consumers and producers find more information about glass recycling? You previously mentioned that you worked with a lot of organizations, a lot of partnerships. What kind of information is out there, and where can people find it?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a great question. Obviously, our website is a good resource, strategicmaterials.com. But if you are looking for kind of a third party where there's a lot of participation from the value chain, including municipalities, the Glass Recycling Coalition is a great resource. There are best practices on there. There's case studies about what's worked for some and others. And the Glass Recycling Foundation is also another great resource. The foundation is really set up to be more of a funding arm. So that would be a great resource if you're looking for some financial assistance beyond expertise. And finally, the Glass Packaging Institute has got a lot of great information. They're putting out reports all the time. So that would be one that I would recommend, which is gpi.org.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much again for joining me today. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you would like to add?
The only thing I would add, and it's interesting because I get asked that question sometimes about what's your closing thought, or if there's one key takeaway about glass, what would it be? And the story of glass is really, really powerful. And the only thing I want to leave people with is glass does not belong in the landfill. There is a home for it. There's a market for it. It doesn't make environmental sense for it to be living in a landfill. So that would be my key takeaway is glass is sort of a really great, perfect circular economy partner, and it does not belong in the landfill.
Thank you once again for joining me for this episode of Stef Talks Trash. To learn more and to see other episodes, visit waste360.com. Have a great day.